everybody, and welcome to my new channel, Huffman Reviews. This is going to be my first review on the channel where I will mainly look over this vehicle and what kind of features it has, especially for the class, and also I will be driving it and talk about how the performance feels, how it handles, and other subjects like that. This is my very first car review. A little back history, I'm a current college student at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and this is my current car as well. The reason why I bought this was I needed something more reliable and better on gas to drive back and forth to school from home. The vehicle I had before was a Jeep Cherokee that was lifted and all kinds of other stuff, so it got an average of about 9 miles per gallon. So in this car I'm averaging about 25, and it just seemed like a good decision for me to get something like this. The car itself, it's a 2.5 SE, so it has a 2.5 liter 5-cylinder engine, makes a little over 180 horsepower, and it's also got a 5-speed manual. The difference with this car and a lot of other ones I've driven is it has just a different exhaust note with it being a 5-cylinder than I'm used to. But I'm used to the added torque compared to others because with my Jeep it had an inline 6, and definitely enjoy that being carried over into this car from my previous one. But what I'm going to do is go over what kind of stuff you can find in this car, what kind of things it comes with from the factory, etc. And then I'm also going to drive it around and let you know what I think about its driving. And then I'm just going to give a quick conclusion on the car and tell you my final thoughts on it. First, I'm going to start with some of the styling of this car, and in the front, as you can see, everything's just kind of blocked off and comes to a narrow front big Volkswagen badge. Headlights I think are pretty simple, but I like the way they look because I feel like they look very clean, kind of modern, but obviously in today's time not very modern at all. But another thing I'd like to note is the wheels, which are actually aftermarket. The wheels that came on this car were steel wheels with very ugly hubcaps that kind of looked like a very old car my grandma might own, but I got some new wheels on it. I felt like it changed the appearance overall of the car. The mirrors, they're two-tone, white with black, and they've got the little turn signal on the side, which I think is really neat because it also has a turn signal on the inside of the mirror, like a little light, and that's just nice in case you forget, or if someone's behind you, maybe in your blind spot, they see that light a little better. Other than that, I mean, the car is pretty simple, and I think that's what I liked about it. Whenever I was looking for cars, I was definitely not looking for something in the economy kind of small car segment. So I looked at quite a few BMWs and Mercedes and Audis and everything, and a lot of the BMWs were, used and didn't have the proper maintenance, so all you could smell while driving it was burning oil and everything else. And this was also significantly less than what I was originally planning to spend. And overall, I'm glad that I did spend this amount because being in college, I think it was a better investment. I've not had any problems. I'm coming up on 2 years of ownership, and I've not had to do anything other than regular maintenance, such as oil change and maybe some brakes here and there, and air filters as well. But other than that, there have been no problems. The car has been very, very reliable. The only thing is it's front-wheel drive, and that's definitely something I was looking to avoid when buying a car. But in this type of car, I couldn't really expect a whole lot more, especially for the price I paid for it. So it's definitely manageable, and it doesn't take away from the driving experience as much as I thought it would. The styling for the side of the car is not much different than the rest of it. I do like that it has one line from the corner of the headlight, and it goes all the way down both back doors and all the way to the tail light. Other than that, everything's pretty clean and simple, but I do like that line. It kind of ties everything together and just gives it a nice look and gives it a little bit more shape than if it were just to be completely flat. Like I said, I came from an old Jeep Cherokee, and they are known for being boxy, and I didn't want to get a car that was just too crazy with the styling and everything. And in the price point, there are a lot of cars that try to go above and beyond on styling, and they usually go overboard, and I just don't like that as much. Another reason why I kind of like this car is it's Volkswagen. It's a German automaker. And I thought that was kind of a good compromise, going from wanting a BMW 5 Series, 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class, etc. I definitely thought that this would be a good compromise when I decided to look for something cheaper. The car, it just feels very sturdy, and that's one of my favorite parts about the car. Everything seems nicer than the amount I paid for it, and that's something I really wasn't expecting, but I like that there seemed to be a lot of attention to detail with this car. The back of the car, the styling pretty much continues. It's very simple, very clean. You just have your taillights here, which are split into two pieces. One piece that stays intact, the other piece that goes with the trunk when it pops up. Again, kind of a large Volkswagen logo, not as large as in the front, but I do like that. And it's just got single exhaust. It has dual tips. I'm not really sure if both are functional, but it does have the dual tips, and it's got nice little reflectors down in the bottom that just kind of gives it an added little touch. But other than that, there's really not much going on with styling in this car. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, but I feel like they did it in a tasteful way and didn't go overboard in their styling, and that's something I definitely like about this car over a lot of its competitors. The inside of this trunk is actually larger than I expected it to be. That kind of seems to be the theme of this car. I got a little bit more of everything than I was expecting when I got the car and when I first sat in it. And that's definitely a plus. I didn't pay that much for this car, and I didn't expect to get, you know, a decent sized trunk, decent gas mileage. The car is just overall decent. It's not, you know, trying to be something it's not, but it's also very good at what it is doing. Now, going into the trunk, as I said earlier, it is a bit larger than I expected it to be. I've had no problem moving pretty big items like TVs and stuff like that. It's a little tight getting it in because the entryway obviously isn't as wide as the body, but it's pretty wide for compared to other cars where it's much narrow, so I do like that. This car actually comes with the optional Volkswagen cargo protection systems, which I didn't think I'd have any use for. I'll show you more uses later, but to begin with, it just comes with this mat, and then of course underneath it you have your spare tire and other tools and stuff like that. Come factory in most cars. But something that I don't like about this carpet, as you can see, there's just stuff that gets stuck in the carpet and I can't hardly get it out. The reason for this is because I've got these things that have Velcro on them. And what you do, you stick them on the floor mat, and you can actually, with these openings, you can build a little ring around whatever you have back here. So if you've got like a dish of food or something you don't want to move around much, you can put those around it and they actually do work. I was surprised. I've used them before and everything stayed in place the whole time. Something else to mention, it has this little net, and as you see, it's got a little hook there, and then one up there, one over there. I haven't really used the net. I don't really know what I would use it for in the trunk, but it's here in case I need it. And probably the best feature of the trunk is this little lever right here. So just a little seat, you pull it and it stays released like this whenever it is disengaged, and all you have to do is go in the back seat and push the seats down instead of having to fumble with a latch and trying to find it on the back of the rear seats. Starting in the driver's side, we have the driver's side door panel. You've got nothing crazy, just your standard 4-window power window operations, your window lock, door locks, mirror control, and a little trunk release. And then below that, you've got some storage and then kind of like a cup holder. Definitely wouldn't advise putting a can or something like that in there. It will spill. I speak from experience. Something I also like about this car, and something they kind of have over a lot of competitors, especially for it being a 2011, it has automatic up-down windows, down and up, and that's also available on each door panel in the car. So it's not just the driver's door panel. If you're in the passenger seat or even the back seat, it has automatic up-down windows. My biggest complaint is the mirror change selection here. As you can see, it's just very flimsy. I can't ever tell what it's in, and it's just not really what I like. My other Volkswagen had that, and it was actually newer than this, so I definitely wish they would change that, and I'm sure they have by now. Over on the driver's side, there's, you know, the seat's a little ripped, it's worn, it needs to be fixed. And then you've got your steering wheel here, which has no buttons on it, and I'll get more on that in a minute. But here's your light controls, no automatic, no, you know, nothing like that. Dimmer control, your side vent, and here's the other part of the cargo protection that I was talking about. I do enjoy this. Where I work and some of the parking lots actually at my school are gravel, so this definitely helps keep all the gravels and the small gravels out of the carpet, and it's much easier to clean than regular floor mats. The seats are not power down there, which can be kind of hard to find at the very first time. That moves the seat forward and back. This is what you would think would recline the seat, but actually it's been broken since I bought it, because I'm sure everyone else, such as me, thought it was to recline the seat when the recline is actually all the way back there, which really I don't like, because it's hard to get to. I don't understand why they wouldn't put it there. It seems like it's more of a used function, so if it was here, it would be a lot better than having this broken piece of plastic that just doesn't work. Once you are inside the car, there's definitely not a whole lot of room. I have to see all the way back all the time. But I don't feel necessarily cramped or anything. I don't feel like I'm always wanting for more space, or that it really aggravates me that much. Everything seems to be pretty good. You know, on the little stalk on the left, you just have your cruise control, which can be kind of gimmicky at times, and then of course your brights. It also has a parking light symbol. I haven't quite figured that out. Probably should do some research into that. On the right side, you've got your standard windshield wiper control and windshield washer fluid with the little knob up here for the intermittent setting. Nothing too special. And in the gauge screen, there's nothing cool in there. It's just got a small little screen in the middle, and tachometer and speedometer, which I'm glad they didn't skip the tachometer with it being a 5-speed. The interior is not bad in coloring. It's kind of like this two-tone. It's got, you know, the black, and then it's got the tan over here, tan seats, tan carpet with black trim, basically, is what I'm thinking it is. Something I don't like about this interior is probably the aluminum looking trim. I know it's not aluminum, it's some sort of plastic. I don't think it looks bad, but what I don't like about it is how it wears, like especially on the gear knob, because I mean it's just shows kind of like a white plastic gear. And they put it also on the button for the handbrake, and with this being a manual, these two pieces are, other than the steering wheel, they get used almost more than anything else. They're used every time you drive. And it's on the climate control, which is, you know, very basic, but it's on these as well, but since they're not used as much, it's not wearing as bad. But putting it on here and here, I just don't think that was a great idea. And again, on the climate control, they're very basic. It's just got your cold to hot, and then you've got your fan speed, and then you can, you know, change the direction of where you want it to go. AC button, rear defrost, and recirculate. Nothing special here. I do wish it had climate control, but I've gotten used to it, which I was used to it anyways, being in my old Jeep. So it's not really been a problem for me, but that's something I will look for in my future car. Something I was missing out on for a while is Bluetooth. I did not realize for the longest time that this car has Bluetooth. Whenever you would press like the media or the menu button, it didn't really show up. You had to go really deep into the menu and find the Bluetooth option, and there's just no set Bluetooth option on here. And like I said earlier, I would get back to the steering wheel. That's because there's no buttons on the steering wheel either. So not only can you not turn the radio up or down, change the channel, there's no way to accept a call or end a call, which I just thought was really odd considering it had Bluetooth. And I just wonder if maybe that was an afterthought, or, you know, maybe it's not supposed to be used, so to speak, because it's so hard to find. But other than that, I mean, the inside is pretty basic up front. I mean, that's all there is. The glove box is, I mean, it's pretty good size. I'm bad about putting stuff in my glove, or center console, my bad. But I'm really bad about putting stuff in the glove box and the center console. The glove box does actually have a separate little panel there. It's kind of like a shelf. It's really nice. But one thing I do not like about this is that it's completely open behind like that glove box itself. So if you're not careful, you can just throw stuff back there, and you just have to kind of go fishing for it, because there's nothing that keeps stuff from going beyond the actual glove box. Same with the seat on the side. They've just got this ridiculous handle here that's supposed to be for raising the seat, I believe, or maybe even lumbar support. I'm not sure, since it doesn't work either. The handle to recline it is on the side of the seat. It's very hard to find, very hard to reach back there and get to it. I don't know why they did that, but they did. But other than that, I mean, this interior is very basic, and I think that's kind of what I liked about it. Getting kind of an older car, so to speak, it was a lot newer than my previous car, but getting something that was older, I didn't want anything with crazy technology for that time, because we all know that technology in cars, especially from an older era, they just don't last long, and it's not really usable after a certain point. So I'm kind of glad it's basic. It kind of goes with the whole, you know, vibe of the entire car, but everything's functional, everything is sturdy. I feel like the build quality is great with this car. Something to show that, you can open the door, and when you shut it, makes a very loud just thump noise. Like it just feels solid. Something I didn't expect, again, and something that's cheap, but I'm glad it's there. And then something I didn't notice or didn't mention earlier, the handles for the doors are also in that aluminum plastic sticker type finish. Again, something that is used a lot, and I don't know why they put that stuff that just wears down pretty easy. It looks nice, but I would have rather had function over looks for that sort of item. Again, all of these windows are one touch down and up. Very nice. I fit reasonably well. I don't have a whole lot of room. The front seat is back pretty far, but again, if you're in the front seat and you don't have the seats back very far, then you're compromised for room as well. So it's not terrible. Like, I can't complain that much, and I haven't had back passengers complain a whole lot either. Like the front, there's nothing super special or, you know, cool or, you know, whatever. It's just very functional, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's been a good car for me so far. This just kind of shows how much room is in the back, and then also the floor mats I was talking about. And then again, there's a lock and unlock button and a little cigarette lighter or 12-volt plug, whichever it is. Again, the lock's in the back, same as the front. When you press the lock button, unless you're going down the road, they do not lock. So I kind of wonder why that's even an option, I guess, for when you are going down the road. Also wanted to show that there is a little pull down center console with little cup holders, nothing special, but also a pass-through. Now, the interesting thing about the pass-through, most pass-throughs are hinged, but with this one, it just comes completely out. So I wish it was hinged. It would kind of make it a little more functional, but it's there for in case you don't want to put the whole back seat down. Also, I wanted to show, now that the seats are unhinged, you just pull them down. And of course, this front seat's a little far back, but it pushes down. The other side does the same as well, so it's a 60-40 split if you do need one passenger, etc. But once folded down, I'll go to the back. Once folded down, I mean, there's even more space. So I've carried a lot of things and haven't really had much issue at all. So definitely plenty of cargo space. So that basically sums up this whole car, except for the driving part. Outside and inside both are simple but functional. I think there's not a lot of gimmicky items in here. There's not a lot of stuff that, you know, doesn't work. Everything works as it should. You know, very functional inside and out. Trunk space is great, but now I want to take it for a drive, and I'm going to tell you basically my driving experience whenever I drive. So now that I've showed you pretty much everything on the outside and inside of this car, or at least that I know about, I'm going to kind of drive it around a little bit and tell you what I think about how it drives. You might be able to hear it does have just kind of an odd exhaust note, with it being a 5-cylinder, a little bit different than what I expected. I will say that it being a straight shift, now I've known how to drive a straight shift for a large part of my life. I'm not that old anyways, but my dad taught me very young. He thought, you know, it was good for me to know how to drive a manual, whether it be 5-speed, 4-speed, or, you know, even 6-speed, whichever one. And I'm glad he did that. So it had been a while since I'd driven a manual, but whenever I got this car, I test drove it, and it had been a long time since I'd driven a manual. So it took just a little bit of getting used to, and now that I've been driving it every day for a while, it's like it's nothing. And I think a lot of that is also the car. This car really doesn't make it hard for you to drive it. That's obviously never been the point of a car, especially something like this, a Jetta. It's supposed to be used for commuting back and forth. It's supposed to be an easy drive, and they definitely did that with this one. So, you know, first gear, it's good and bad. It's good because it helps you pull out, and, you know, doesn't cause a lot of harm, doesn't, you know, make you think, oh, what if I get stopped on the hill, anything like that. Like, it's never been a problem there. Just one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is, you know, that as soon as you pull out in first, it's like you're automatically shifting to second gear. And, you know, that's not a favorite of mine, but it's not something that completely ruins the driving experience. Now that I'm on the road, you know, I'm kind of on a lower, you know, speed road right now, but very you know, like lots of turns and curves and everything. And something with this car, I always feel, you know, very secure driving it. I don't feel like it's going to lose control. I don't drive like a maniac most of the time, but whenever I'm just going the speed limit even, I always feel completely in control. Like, it's never been a big issue for me driving this car in the turns, going up to the mountains, stuff like that. I mean, the clutch is
super, super light. I kind of wish it wasn't, because maybe it'd give a little bit more feedback. There's hardly any. It's either pushed in or pushed out. The brakes, I definitely do not like the brakes. I will say that. That's one of my least favorite things. But what I mean is, you hit the brakes and, you're just like, oh, when is this car going to stop? Like, you have to just really, really push them for them to actually engage. And that part, I'm just not a huge fan of. Like right now, I'm in some really twisty turns and going uphill. This car is not a powerhouse. Like, there's just not a lot of power in there. But that's just something that doesn't come to mind every time I drive. Like, just going up that, it was a very steep hill with a lot of curves. Like right here, a very steep, almost, side, like off kilter turn. And I feel fine. Like, I feel like I have plenty of power. Of course, yeah, I wish it had more power, but I'm probably going to say that about any car I drive, just because I do like power. I like to go a little bit faster when I want to or when I have to. But I don't have to in this car. I mean, when I'm pulling out in traffic, it does fine. I don't have a problem. It's not a fast car. Like, I will never, say to anyone like, oh, I drive a fast car, and then they're gonna ask what, and I'm gonna say, oh, a Volkswagen Jetta 2.5. Like, it's just not a fast car, but it definitely gets the job done better than I expected. Again, I mean, this car, the whole car has basically been doing stuff better than I expect, and I'm really glad I bought the car. It's super, super practical for what I need, and it's perfect for where I am in life right now. I don't have kids. I don't have a whole lot of stuff I'm doing with my car other than commuting. So, I mean, it works great. Steering is another thing. Steering, brakes, and clutch are all really light. And I'm not really sure why they thought that was, such a good idea. And again, I'm sure it had something to do with it being just more of a commuter car. This is not a driver's car, so I get that. But I also feel like if it were heavier, even everyday drivers, just normal people like me driving, would feel more secure driving it, because they would be in more touch with what the car's doing. There's not much response at all. I mean, you turn it and the car's going, but you're not feeling anything. The better part, I guess, is that it's really easy to drive. I mean, this car is an easy car just to drive in traffic every day, whatever. Even being a manual, I don't have any issues in traffic. Like, I'm perfectly fine driving this in traffic. So, I mean, that's definitely something that I like about it. Gear changes are super, super smooth and easy. It kind of follows suit. But again, with the steering and clutch and brakes, I just wish it was a little heavier. But, I mean, overall, it's a great car to drive. I have fun when I drive it, and that's something I didn't expect to say when I was looking for this, or, a Honda Civic or a Toyota. Just not something I expected to say was like, oh yeah, this car is actually kind of fun to drive. So I've been surprised with everything in this car, and driving is definitely one of those as well.
So my final thoughts on this car, I bought it because, obviously I needed something to get back and forth to school, and I thought it'd be a great option. And I've been really surprised with a lot of things from this car now that I've bought it. Whether it be interior or the reliability, or even the way it drives. Like I said, it's not a fast car, and I will never try to say that this is a fast car, but it can be fun to drive, and that really surprised me. I didn't expect that with this type of car at all. So it's just very practical, very simple, very basic. Even from the styling, I feel like it's very subtle. There's not much crazy going on. The inside is pretty basic as well. It's functional, and it does its job, but at the same time, I don't really think less of it because of that. It suits my needs perfectly, and so far it's been a great car for almost 2 years with hardly any issues. So that's pretty much all of my final thoughts on it. Please subscribe, like, and even comment. And again, this is my first video. This is the very first video for my channel, so I definitely would take any kind of pointers or any suggestions you have, anything you didn't like or anything you really liked. Hope to see y'all in my next video, and I will see y'all later.